It was the dead of night on July 3, 2025, when the unimaginable almost happened. In the cold waters off the coast of Iceland, a U.S. Navy carrier, one of the most powerful warships ever built, was nearly ambushed by a Russian submarine. Silence broke across the command deck as the sonar operator aboard the USS Thomas Hudner detected a faint acoustic anomaly, a ghostly presence in the water, a shadow that had crept within striking distance of the USS Gerald R. Ford. What seemed like an ordinary moment on a routine patrol turned into a heart-stopping standoff. In mere minutes, the submarine, a lethal Yasen class, positioned itself for an attack, one torpedo away from devastating the American supercarrier. The world could have changed in an instant. What changed in that moment? How did the U.S. Navy respond to a threat that could have triggered global conflict? The clock struck to 17 a.m. The USS Thomas Hudner, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, was positioned as part of the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group. The mission seemed straightforward: monitor the North Atlantic waters for routine maritime activity. However, this seemingly innocuous task turned perilous when sonar technician second class Rodriguez detected a faint anomaly, an unusual noise on the sonar. It was more than background noise or a distant fishing trawler. For a brief moment, the contact seemed like just another wave in the endless ocean. But something was off. The sound was too consistent, too deliberate. The contact was moving at 12 knots, and its trajectory was unmistakable. It was heading directly toward the Gerald R. Ford. A chill ran down Rodriguez's spine as his training kicked in. This wasn't just noise. This was a Russian Yasen-class nuclear submarine. The Thomas Hudner immediately sounded general quarters. Captain Sarah Mitchell, a veteran of the high seas, wasted no time. Protocol 7 was initiated. This was the Navy's standard response to a hostile submarine threat near high-value assets. Within minutes, the command deck erupted into action, and the strike group began repositioning. Destroyers began changing course, while frigates deployed sonar buoys, creating a defensive perimeter. But the presence of the Russian submarine remained a constant menacing threat just 38 miles away. The Yasen-class submarine, with its stealth technology and advanced weapon systems, was the predator in this scenario. It was nearly invisible, moving in near silence, using the ocean's thermal layers to mask its presence. For all intents and purposes, the Russian submarine could have been a shadow on the sea, undetectable by even the most advanced systems of the U.S. Navy. Meanwhile, the Gerald R. Ford continued its operations, blissfully unaware of the danger circling just below the surface. The Russian submarine, likely a Severodvinsker Nova based on intelligence reports, was closing the distance. Its stealth and maneuverability offered it a nearly perfect firing position. The Ford had been under constant protection from an armada of U.S. destroyers, a Los Angeles-class submarine, and a perimeter of surveillance planes. Yet none of them had detected the Russian submarine until it was dangerously close to the carrier. For 14 agonizing minutes, the situation was balanced on a razor's edge. The Russian sub held its position, a mere torpedo away from sending the U.S. Navy's pride to the depths of the ocean. As the clock ticked, the U.S. Navy's response began to take shape: swift, strategic, and designed to counter the silent predator beneath the waves. With the clock ticking, the U.S. Navy's response was immediate and coordinated. The situation was dire, but the tactical brilliance of the Navy's anti-submarine warfare strategy was about to unfold. The USS Thomas Hudner, as the closest asset to the threat, had already locked onto the Russian submarine's position, but it wasn't enough to turn the tide. The danger was imminent, and the Navy had to escalate quickly to prevent a disaster. The key to the Navy's strategy was the deployment of a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, a vital piece in the U.S. Navy's anti-submarine warfare arsenal. In a matter of minutes, the aircraft launched from Naval Air Station Keflavik in Iceland, was airborne and headed toward the carrier strike group. Its mission was critical: to drop a barrier of sonar buoys, acoustic sensors designed to create a perimeter of sound that would trap the Russian submarine and force it to surface or change course. The P-8 Poseidon's capabilities are unparalleled. Equipped with sophisticated sonar systems and magnetic anomaly detection gear, the Poseidon was designed to detect even the most stealthy of submarines. Its real-time sonar processing could differentiate between marine life, cargo ships, and potential threats. Within minutes, the Poseidon sonar buoys created a near-impenetrable detection barrier around the Gerald R. Ford. The sub, which had been silently stalking its target, now found itself trapped in a web of sound, unable to escape detection. But the U.S. Navy didn't stop there. Within 12 minutes of the initial detection, the USS Virginia, a nuclear attack submarine, moved swiftly to intercept. Operating independently 40 nautical miles away from the carrier group, the Virginia used its own advanced sonar systems to triangulate the Russian submarine's exact location. As it silently closed in, both submarines, aware they were being hunted, engaged in a high-stakes cat-and-mouse game. Beneath the waves, the stakes were higher than ever. The slightest noise, the smallest mistake in positioning, could give away either submarine's location, exposing it to a deadly attack. The game of deception was now in full swing, and any tactical misstep could be catastrophic. As both submarines continued to maneuver, the tension escalated with each passing second. The Russian submarine, sensing its position was becoming untenable, began its descent into deeper waters, an evasion tactic designed to slip away from detection. But it was too late. The U.S. Navy had achieved what experts call a firing solution lock, meaning it had successfully triangulated the position of the Russian submarine. The Gerald R. Ford was safe for now, yet the moment was still fraught with danger, a miscalculation, a delay in detection, and the entire situation could have spiraled out of control. Then the Navy deployed a psychological tactic, the final psychological warfare element in its arsenal. Using an underwater telephone system, the USS Virginia broadcast a clear and simple message: unknown submarine, you are being tracked. Recommend immediate departure from this area. The message, broadcast in both English and Russian, was unmistakable. Russia's stealthy submarine was no longer a threat, but a target. With the Russian submarine now fully aware that it had been trapped, the next phase of the U.S. Navy's response focused on forcing the adversary into a position where it had no escape. The psychological pressure was mounting on both sides, but it was clear that the Russian submarine's commander faced a critical decision: attempt a risky escape or stand down. The U.S. Navy, with its advanced technology and precise tactics, had gained the upper hand, but the situation was far from over. The Virginia continued its pursuit, maintaining a steady pace and ensuring that the Russian submarine's every movement was tracked. The key to success in this deadly game of underwater cat and mouse lay in the coordination of multiple assets working in perfect harmony. The P-8 Poseidon sonar buoys provided constant real-time tracking information while the Virginia closed in, triangulating and confirming the sub's location with pinpoint accuracy.